Mael tried to get me fired by calling my boss and saying I was quitting my job. Long-time lurker, first-time poster. Some background. I, female, 34, have been married to my husband Brian, male 36, for 4 years, together for 7. I've been working at this marketing firm for almost 8 years now, and I've basically killed myself to move up. I've missed vacations, worked weekends, the whole thing. Brian has been mostly supportive, even though it means I've had to rain check on a lot of stuff over the years. So after all this work, I finally got offered a director-level promotion last month. The salary bump is huge, and the benefits are way better, which means we can actually start looking at houses in better school districts. We don't have kids yet. We've been on the fence about it, but have been talking about maybe trying next year. The issue is my mother-in-law, Diane, female, 63. When Brian and I first started dating, she was actually pretty nice to me. She would invite me over for family dinners, ask about my job, normal Mael stuff. But literally the second we got married, it's like a switch flipped. She started making these little comments about my job. At first it was subtle stuff like, "Oh sweetie, that's a lot of hours away from home," or "Brian must be so lonely in that big house all by himself while you're working." But over the last couple years, she's gotten way more direct. She said stuff to me like, "No man wants to be married to his boss." And she actually said, "You can't put a career on the wall where grandchildren's photos should be." Who says that to someone's face? Brian knows his mom can be a bit traditional, his words, but he usually just laughs it off and says she means well. He doesn't like conflict, so he tries to keep the peace. I love him, but sometimes I wish he would stand up to her more. So anyway, last Sunday, we had dinner at their house, and I mentioned my promotion. Thomas, my FIL, male, 65, was super excited for me, asking all kinds of questions about my new responsibilities. But Diane just sat there with this pinched look on her face. Then she said, "More responsibility means less time for what truly matters, doesn't it?" Brian changed the subject before I could respond. Then, 3 days ago, I get back from lunch, and my boss Jennifer calls me into her office looking all concerned. She asks me to close the door and sit down. I'm freaking out internally because what the frick did I do? Jennifer told me she got a call from someone claiming to be my personal assistant, saying I was resigning effective immediately due to pressing family matters and would be submitting paperwork by the end of the week. I just sat there with my mouth hanging open. First of all, I don't have a personal assistant. Second, I just accepted the promotion. Why would I resign? Jennifer said she thought it was strange too, especially since the caller knew personal details about me, like Brian's name, and even mentioned our anniversary trip to Maine we took last month. She said normally she might have started processing the resignation, but since we had just finalized my promotion, she wanted to confirm directly with me. I was literally shaking. Someone tried to get me fired by lying to my boss. I assured Jennifer I had absolutely no plans to quit and had no idea who would do this. She believed me, thank God, but said it was highly unusual. Later that afternoon, I went to get coffee, and Tara from reception pulled me aside and said the woman who called had kind of a fancy accent and seemed older. Instantly I knew. It was Diane. It had to be. So yesterday, I drove to their house during Thomas's regular Friday golf game. I knew he wouldn't be home. When Diane answered the door, she seemed surprised, but put on this fake smile and said, "Megan, did you get time off from that demanding job?" I had my phone recording in my pocket because I just knew she would deny everything if I didn't have proof. I tried to stay super calm and just asked her directly about the call to my workplace. She pretended to be confused at first. "What call? I have no idea what you're talking about." So I mentioned specific details only the caller would know, like Brian's name and our anniversary trip. Her face changed. I swear I saw this little smirk form before she tried to hide it. She then admitted that sometimes mothers need to step in when their children are making mistakes. I was trying not to completely lose it. I asked if she called my boss and tried to get me fired. She told me she called to help me prioritize what matters, and that I'd thank her once I was pregnant and realized what really matters in life. I was furious. She kept going, saying Brian deserves a real wife, not some career-obsessed woman who puts her job first, and that someone needed to set priorities straight in our marriage. I left before I said something I'd regret. I've been sitting on this recording for 24 hours and haven't told Brian yet. Part of me wants to play it for him immediately, but another part is worried about putting him in the middle. He loves his mom, and I don't want to force him to choose sides, but she literally tried to destroy my career. The most infuriating part, Brian and I have actually been talking about starting a family next year. Like, we've been having serious conversations about it on our timeline, not because his mother thinks it's time. And this isn't even the first time Diane has interfered in her kids' lives. She basically bullied Brian's sister into breaking up with a boyfriend she deemed unsuitable years ago. Ironically, the sister is now divorced from the guy Diane did approve of. Thomas, my file, has always been super supportive of my career. He built his own business from scratch and is always asking about my projects, congratulating me on my accomplishments. He and I actually get along really well. Thanksgiving is in 2 weeks, and we're supposed to go to their house. I'm supposed to sit across the table from this woman who tried to destroy everything I've worked for. I'm so angry I can barely think straight. Edit. A lot of people are asking if my boss believed me over the phone call. Yes, thankfully, Jennifer trusts me and went ahead with the promotion. But she did mention that if she hadn't already known me for years, she might have processed the resignation without questioning it. So Diane could have actually succeeded if I'd been at a different company or had a different boss. To clarify about Brian, he's a good husband overall. He does stand up for me sometimes, but he tends to dismiss his mom's comments as, "That's just how she is," rather than calling her out directly. I think he genuinely doesn't see how bad it's gotten. Several people have asked about telling Thomas. I'm torn about this too. He's always been in my corner, but I worry about damaging their marriage. I don't want to be responsible for causing problems between them, even though Diane is the one who did something terrible. So now I'm sitting here with this recording, wondering what to do with it. Show it just to Brian. Play it for the entire family. Try to move past it for family harmony. I literally have proof of her admitting to trying to sabotage my career. I don't think I can just pretend this didn't happen, but I'm also dreading the fallout if I play this recording. Now for the first update. So a lot has happened since my last post. Sorry for the wait. Things have been crazy, and I'm only now able to process everything enough to update. So, after reading all your advice, I decided to show Brian the recording that same night. I was honestly terrified about how he would react. I don't know why. Maybe because he's always been the peacekeeper in his family. I mean, we've been together 7 years and married for 4, but there's always that tiny voice in your head that's like, what if he takes her side? I played the whole thing for him while we were sitting on the couch after dinner. I wish I could accurately describe the look on his face as he listened. He went from confused to shocked to completely horrified. When it finished, he just sat there in complete silence for like 2 full minutes. He finally asked in a quiet voice if she actually called my work and tried to get me fired. I nodded and he put his head in his hands. Then he looked up and I could see he was angry. Like, I've hardly ever seen Brian angry in 7 years. He's always the chill one. He decided to call her right then, grabbing his phone and putting it on speaker so I could hear everything, which honestly surprised me in a good way. He wasn't hiding anything. When she answered, she sounded all cheery, like nothing was wrong. But Brian immediately cut her off and asked if she called my workplace trying to get me fired. There was this pause, and I swear my heart was beating so loud. She tried to deflect by asking why he was calling so late about this. Classic Diane deflection. Brian firmly told her to answer the question. She made this little huffing sound and admitted she was only trying to help our marriage. I literally had to bite my tongue not to say anything. Brian asked how getting me fired would help our marriage. She explained that sometimes wives need a push to realize family should come first. She said Brian works too much too, but it's different for men, and I need to understand my priorities. Brian told her this was completely inappropriate and crossed every boundary, and she had no right to interfere with my career. She told him he'd see she was right eventually, once we have children, and that she knows what's best since she's been married longer than he's been alive. Brian was so mad. He told her our family planning was none of her business. None of this was her business. When she tried to say she knows what's best for the family, Brian cut her off. He said they'd discuss this further after he calmed down, and that this wasn't over. Then he hung up. I was honestly shocked. Brian has never talked to his mom like that before. Ever. We stayed up until like 2 a.m. talking about everything. He kept apologizing over and over for his mom's behavior, which he totally didn't need to do. It's not his fault his mom is crazy. But the most important part was that he finally acknowledged there's been a pattern of this behavior that he's been downplaying. Oh, and this is wild. He told me Diane did something similar with his first girlfriend in college. Apparently, she showed up unannounced at this poor girl's dorm room to tell her Brian needed to focus on his studies without distractions. The girlfriend broke up with him a week later. I never knew about this. So we agreed we need to establish firm boundaries with Diane. But here's where things got complicated. Brian suggested we wait until after the holidays to have a serious sit-down with his parents. He was like, "Can we just try to get through Thanksgiving? It's only 10 days away. Then we can address everything in the new year." I was honestly hurt by this. Like, she tried to destroy my career, and he wants to play nice for the holidays. Part of me gets it. He's caught between his wife and his mom, and that's a terrible position to be in. But another part of me felt betrayed. It reminded me of when my parents got divorced when I was 13. My dad would always prioritize his new girlfriend's comfort at family events over my feelings. He'd be like, "Just be nice for Christmas," while she was wearing my mom's old jewelry. And now here's Brian, basically asking me to smile through Thanksgiving with a woman who tried to sabotage my entire life. Brian's been getting more anxious. I literally caught him taking Tums before bed 3 nights in a row. And Thomas, my Fael, remains totally clueless about what happened. I've considered telling Thomas privately, but honestly, I'm worried it would seem like I'm trying to turn him against his wife. Even though he would 100% be on my side, he's always been super supportive of my career. So then 3 days before Thanksgiving, I had the most uncomfortable encounter ever. I was at the grocery store getting some last-minute stuff for the cheesecake I'm bringing, and guess who I ran into in the produce section? Yep, Diane. She spotted me first and came over with her cart full of Thanksgiving supplies. She greeted me cheerfully and commented on the cranberries, like we were just 2 gals shopping, like she hadn't tried to destroy my life 2 weeks ago. I just nodded and tried to grab my stuff to escape as fast as possible. She asked if I was making anything special for Thursday or if work was keeping me too busy to cook, with this little smile. I told her I was just making my pumpkin cheesecake, like always. She patted my arm, "Don't touch me," and suggested it was time for me to learn some family recipes for when I have my own family. I couldn't take it anymore. I looked her right in the eyes and asked if she really thought sabotaging my career was acceptable behavior. She actually lowered her voice and leaned in like we were sharing secrets. She said sometimes mothers have to make difficult choices for the good of the family. Another shopper walked by, and Diane immediately plastered on her fake smile again. She added that we could discuss this Thursday if I insisted on bringing it up, like she was being so generous. I told her that maybe we should discuss it with everyone present, and I swear her face changed for just a split second before she recovered. She told me to do what I think is best with that fake smile. So now Thanksgiving is today, and I'm literally sitting here getting ready to leave for their house in an hour. Brian keeps saying he hopes we can just get through dinner without any drama. I've decided not to ruin Thanksgiving preemptively, but I have the recording ready on my phone just in case. I honestly feel so conflicted. Like, I want family harmony and peace too, but also consequences. She tried to get me fired and thinks that's fine. But I also don't want to hurt Thomas, who has done nothing wrong, or put Brian in an impossible position. The one good thing in all this mess is that I officially started my new director position last week. But even that joy feels tainted by all this drama with Diane. I've got my pearl earrings on, and my cheesecake is packed. We're about to leave for what might be the most awkward Thanksgiving of my life. Edit. Thanks for all the supportive comments already. To answer some common questions. 1. Yes, I'm 100% bringing my phone with the recording. 2. No, I haven't told Thomas yet, though many of you are suggesting I should. 3. Brian does not want me to just forget about it. He agrees his mom was way out of line. He just wanted to delay the confrontation until after the holidays, which I disagree with. Several people have asked if Diane might try to turn this around on me or claim I misunderstood her intentions. That's exactly what I'm worried about. She's really good at playing the victim when confronted. It's why I'm so glad I have the actual recording. It's pretty hard to argue with her own words. For those saying I should just skip Thanksgiving, I honestly considered it. But then Diane wins, right? She'd get to tell everyone I'm too busy working to attend family functions. And Thomas would be so disappointed. He's always been super supportive of me. Plus, I actually want to stand my ground. I'm not the one who did something wrong here. About to head out the door now. We'll update later about how it all goes down. Wish me luck. Now for the second update. Wow, it's been a while since my last update. Thank you all so much for the support and advice through this whole nightmare with my Mael. So, Thanksgiving. I was shaking when we pulled into their driveway. My hands were trembling so bad I dropped my phone twice getting out of the car. Brian kept asking if I was okay, which was honestly kind of annoying because obviously I wasn't. I was about to have dinner with someone who tried to destroy my career and was acting like nothing happened. When we got there, Diane opened the door in her fall-themed apron. She hugged Brian and tried to hug me too, but I sidestepped and just handed her my cheesecake. The table was set with her grandmother's china and she had decorated everything. I was wearing the pearl earrings that Thomas and Diane gave me for our wedding day. I guess part of me hoped it might remind her of when she used to actually like me. Or maybe I wore them because despite everything, I still treasure them. I don't know, it sounds stupid typing it out now. Brian was so tense. He barely touched his food and kept bouncing his leg under the table, which he only does when he's super anxious. Meanwhile, Diane was acting like nothing had happened, serving food, asking about everyone's week. Thomas seemed completely oblivious to everything, talking about his golf game and asking me really enthusiastic questions about my promotion. Thomas kept saying how proud he was of my director position, while Diane's smile got more and more strained. At one point, I caught her giving Thomas this look when he was asking about my new team size. Oh, and Brian's sister canceled last minute because her kid got strep throat. At least that's what she said. Honestly, I'm pretty sure she just sensed the family stress coming and decided to bail. Smart move on her part, lol. We somehow managed to navigate safe topics through most of dinner. The weird warm weather, Brian's cousin's new baby, the construction project down the street from their house. I was starting to think maybe we'd actually get through this without any problems. Then came dessert. I had just taken a bite of Diane's pumpkin pie, which she makes from her mother's recipe and reminds everyone of constantly when she casually mentioned that her friend's daughter quit her executive job to have a baby and was never happier. I tried to stay neutral and just mumbled something about different choices working for different people. But then Diane looked directly at me and told me some women don't appreciate family traditions and are too busy with their careers. I froze mid-bite. I looked at Brian, silently begging him to say something, but he just stared at his plate. Thomas said he admired career-focused women like me and that it takes drive to succeed. Diane said men always say that until they want dinner on the table or grandchildren. I felt something snap inside me. I set down my fork and told Diane we should clear the air about something. Brian whispered that maybe now wasn't the time, but it was too late. Thomas looked confused and asked what was going on. Diane interrupted and said I was just being sensitive lately. I took out my phone and told everyone they should hear this recording. Diane went completely pale when she realized what I had. Thomas asked what recording we were talking about, looking between us. I played the recording of Diane's call to my workplace. Everyone heard her saying I should prioritize what matters, that I'd thank her once I was pregnant, and that Brian deserves a real wife, not someone who puts her job first. The room went completely silent. Thomas's face changed from confusion to shock to anger. Diane tried to reach for my phone, saying it was taken out of context, but I moved it away. When it ended, Thomas asked in a quiet voice if she really tried to make me lose my job. Diane tried to justify herself by saying she was thinking of Brian's happiness. Thomas asked directly if she interfered with someone's livelihood. Diane said she just made a phone call and it wasn't a crime. Thomas stood up, his hands shaking, and told her that in his book, it was. The silence after that was crushing. Brian looked both relieved and horrified. Thomas seemed to age years right in front of us, and Diane's face showed defiance, righteousness, and then fear when she realized how serious Thomas was. Thomas kept his voice calm, but told Diane he didn't recognize who she was anymore. He apologized to me several times, then told Diane to pack an overnight bag and leave. He said he couldn't even look at her. Diane didn't think he was serious at first. She laughed nervously and said he was being ridiculous. When she realized he meant it, she started crying and blamed me for turning everyone against her. That's when Brian finally spoke up. He told his mom her actions were inexcusable and that she needed to take responsibility instead of blaming me. I almost fell out of my chair, to be honest. After 7 years together, I've never seen him stand up to her like that. So, the aftermath. The past few months have been intense. Diane stayed with her sister for over 2 weeks. Thomas has met with Brian and me several times to apologize, and our relationship is stronger than ever. He's been so supportive. Brian has finally set boundaries with his mother, including requiring her to go to therapy before they resume normal contact. I'm still kind of shocked he's holding firm on this, but so proud of him. And my relationship with my boss, Jennifer, has gotten even better. I was honest with her about what happened, and she's been understanding. She even added extra security for our HR department to prevent this from happening again. The most unexpected thing is that our marriage has actually gotten stronger. Brian finally understands his mother's interference and has committed to putting our relationship first. We've had some of the most honest conversations of our entire relationship. So where are we now, 3 months post-Thanksgiving? Diane has reluctantly started therapy, according to Thomas. She moved back home about a month ago, but things are still pretty strained between them. She sent me an apology letter last month. It wasn't exactly warm, but it acknowledged what she did was wrong, which is more than I expected. And here's the ironic part that would make Diane's head explode if she knew. Please don't tell her. Reddit. Brian and I have decided to start trying for a baby, completely on our terms and our timeline. We'd been talking about it before all this happened anyway. I have such conflicted feelings about all this. I never wanted to damage anyone's marriage or cause family problems. I sometimes feel guilty when I think about Thomas and Diane's relationship struggling because of this. But then I remember she tried to destroy my career, and I feel vindicated again. It's complicated. There's still unresolved stuff. Diane's therapy progress seems questionable, according to things Brian has heard from Thomas. Easter is coming up next month, and there's already stress about family gatherings, and Brian is still working through his feelings toward his mother. One day he's angry, the next day he feels guilty for being angry. But exposing the truth was necessary, messy aftermath and all. Thank you again for all the support, kind internet strangers. I don't know how I would have gotten through this without your advice. Edit. So many people are asking if Brian and I are in therapy too. Yes, we started couples counseling about 6 weeks ago, not because our relationship is in trouble, but because we wanted help navigating all this family stuff. It's been super helpful so far. For those asking about my promotion, I'm still loving my new role. There was definitely an adjustment period, so many meetings, oh my freaking god. But my team is fantastic, and I finally feel like all those years of hard work are paying off. A lot of you have asked if Diane knows about the baby thing. No, and we plan to keep it that way for as long as possible. We haven't told anyone yet except our best friends. When we do eventually tell the family, I want it to be 100% clear that this was our decision on our timeline. To the person who asked if I ever worry Diane might try to sabotage something else in my life. Yes, constantly. Brian installed security cameras at our house. His idea, not mine. And I've started being extra cautious about who has access to my personal information. Maybe it's paranoid, but after what she did, I don't think any precaution is too extreme.